We're on a landowner burn up here, about 5 acres. This is the first prescribed burn on parish with the Butte Prescribed Burn Association since the campfire and since the PBA started. And so it's been a long time coming. All right. What's up, Lyle?
How you doing, Zeke?
All right, man. We're live on the lookout. What do you guys say? What's going on out here?
We're bringing some fire back to the land. We're up here in Magalia, Nimshew area. We got a good little fire going here. We got a really good mixed crew, a lot of experience, and a good amount of newer folks that are getting torch time and some chop time.
All right. And what's your job?
I am holding boss.
All right. All right. I'll let you do your job. I'll catch you later.
Okay. Thanks, Zeke.
All right.
Yeah. Look out, baby.
All right. Look out.
Look out.
These guys they're dragging a hose up the hill here. That's run down the hill from a fire engine just to put some water on a dead tree, because we don't want that tree to catch on fire and then like have fire up in that tree after I'm on the bottom of the unit here, and we don't want fire up in this tree and then have it like dropping embers down over here tonight or something outside the burn. So these guys just have that hose in there if they want to cool that down.
We're bringing more hose. We're bringing more hose right now. Wow.
All right, so basically these burns are organized like a wildfire. We take a lot from the wildfire world as far as how we delegate responsibilities and how we arrange kind of what we call the command structure. And so Prescribed Fire Association here it's not a governmental entity. This is a kind of volunteer effort that's coordinated by the Butte County Resource Conservation District through their Butte PBA. So there's PBAs kind of all over California. It's a concept that started off in down in the southeast, like Georgia, and then also in the Midwest, Missouri, Nebraska. The idea is that your neighbors and fellow kind of ranchers or foresters or other land managers pool their resources to make burning happen. So like right now we've got a fire engine here from Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve. We've got a fire engine here from the Mechoopda Tribe. We've got a fire engine here from the Butte County Resource Conservation District. And we've got a water tender that's here from Greg Shandell Construction. Greg hosts burns on his land right across the ridge here, over right below Forest Ranch. And so kind of in return for us bringing out all this talent to burn on his place, then he pays for an operator and the fuel to send his water tender over here. But we've got no kind of direct governmental involvement today. There's no CAL FIRE involvement. There's no CAL FIRE engine here, no Forest Service, no fire department, no red trucks, right? We got white pickups. We're burning about 5 acres. This area's been thinned and prepped for this. And if we get around, after this top unit's done, there's a lower unit here that's also slated to be burned, but probably not today, just because it's been kind of windy and we want to get this done before we get our kind of afternoon up canyon winds on this site. Anyway, we got the Mechoopda today, our firing crew. They're getting into a lot more burning on their lands. Mechoopda people have been burning since the dawn of time. And so anyway, Mechoopda folks are running firing operations today. You saw Lyle, he's the PBA member and volunteer. He's our holding boss. Holding boss generally is kind of similar to what you'd have on a wildfire for like a division supervisor.
Hey, David.
They're just their job is to kind of coordinate all the operations here with the engines and the crews and anything that would require suppression. That's the purview of the holding boss. And you got the firing boss. They coordinate kind of the choreography, and both those people work for the burn boss, right? So that's we got a pretty streamlined structure. So basically, you could burn, you could burn your yard and be the burn boss and firing boss, and maybe your friend with the UTV with the water on it might be the holding boss. It's real kind of flexible. You could have 100 people working on a burn under the structure, or you could have 5. Today we've got maybe 20. A lot of the talent out here today is Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve, and they're solid crews. They've had a lot of experience. They've had a lot of like formal training, and they've had a lot of experience just on burn. So when I'm burn busting, if I get an engine or a squad from Chico State, like I know I'm getting really solid talent. All this is being developed, a lot of it with funding from, there's a lot of workforce development money right now for prescribed fire coming from CAL FIRE, and basically it's paying for, BSER has funding, basically Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve, to be able to send their crews kind of anywhere in Northern California to work on a burn that has been through the CEQA process, right? Meaning that there's been an environmental review, that we're not going to go put like a hand line through a old village site. And because this project here was thinned with Fire Safe Council money, it's been through that kind of review process, which it was funded by state money. So a lot of its partner agencies, because of that, it's been through that kind of review. That's a hurdle that then they can come and burn and get paid out of the training pot. We were talking a little bit earlier about how smoke affects fire behavior. And so we lit, this unit is kind of west facing. I'm kind of facing east right now. And we lit this area here. I'm looking south. And we lit this first because we've had north winds this morning, and the forecast is kind of for north winds. And so we wanted to kind of button up, finish burning the south flank of this before we got any winds, any good winds. And so now we're starting to get a little bit more of a push from the, it's kind of mixed, the battling winds. We're starting to get a little more up canyon wind. What happened with the north wind is that we've got a lot of smoke here that's kind of shading us out. So that actually kind of dampens down the fire behavior. So it's one of those tricky things that the firing boss has to take into consideration about like the sequence of how they light this stuff, is if you light it, depending on where you light it, the smoke you create may affect how your fire actually behaves. So if you're kind of in marginally dry conditions, like where you feel like it would burn hotter than you would want it to, you can actually light it in such a way that your burn is going to mainly take place under the smoke shadow. Sometimes you have control of that. Other times, today our main constraint was just that we've got the north wind, so we had to light the south flank first. We probably wouldn't have done that if we hadn't had north winds. We probably would have lit the north flank first over here, and then with the south.
Come by, guys. No, not. Come by, guys. No, not coming by. I'll be it, man. Or not.
All right, this is Gus from the Mechoopda Tribe on the firing team today.
Yes, sir. How you guys doing out there?
So you done fire outside of prescribed fire?
I have not.
Hey, you've got hose
This
right
is
below
actually,
you.
well, my third fire right now, but prescribed fire, yeah.
Yeah,
Did one over Cana a couple of months ago, so yeah.
good fire.
Oh, yeah. First year
So-
doing fire too, so.
So how many of the guys out here have worked like on firestorm crews or stuff like that?
Firestorm crew, I have no idea. That's
I think, like Frankie, I know Frankie.
Frankie has, yeah.
Yeah.
And so has, not Jason, not Dumbo, but yeah, we have several people on Firestorm before, yeah.
Uh-huh.
The hot shots.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what do you guys like? What are you guys doing with fire on the lands you're managing there out by the casino?
Oh, we just purchased that property not so long ago though, but yes, we're doing control burns out there as well, and then we're trying to plant new native plants out there on a little stream we got out there on the backside of the roundhouse we have over there.
So is like fire part of that?
Yes, absolutely.
And are you guys using fire to like manage the potatoes and stuff?
Oh yes, sir.
So that like helps reduce the competition from the grass or what?
Oh yes, especially other thing that's out there too. We're trying to.
So you're like trying to get rid of the weeds and grow what you want?
Star thistle and all that, yes. That's just overtaken the water source from other plants that we have. So yes, we've been doing burns out there as well.
Right on.
So thank you guys very much for helping that. I know your crew was helping us with that too as well.
Yeah, well, we're stoked to have a place to come kind of train and practice.
Oh, absolutely.
But looking forward to burning more with you guys.
Absolutely, man. You guys had a good time. We had a good time, man. We can do it again.
Thanks, Gus. Good luck lighting. Back to Lyle.
Lyle.
How you doing, brother?
Doing good,
Still
man.
alive?
We're live on YouTube on the lookout.
I'll watch the sailor mouth, huh?
With the beep you out.
Yeah, this is a good fire. I like it. Feel like we're getting good consumption. Everybody's adjusting. You know,
Yeah.
it's a prescribed burn. I'm not telling you, but I'm telling everybody else. You adapt. Everything is based on current conditions.
Right, and yeah, the winds are all over the place today.
They are, and thank you for your excellent weather that bailed us out.
Oh yeah.
So nice
Yeah.
and done.
Oh yeah. We were taking weather earlier, and some folks had the newfangled Kestrel, the digital weather thermometers, and they were getting weather conditions that said we were too dry to burn. And then I broke out my trusty sling cyclometer, old wet dry bulb, and we were actually like 8 points higher, I think.
Yeah, I heard 8 or 10 higher.
Yeah. So it was moister.
Throw it away.
Yeah, it's moister than what the digital was saying. So
Yeah, we stopped firing for a while because of that.
yeah. So this is prescribed burn. Tell me, like, what's the word prescription mean in prescribed?
So prescription means we have a formula, we have a prescription that is written far in advance, and it tells us what our conditions are that we can burn. It tells us what we want to accomplish when we burn, and it tells us when we're out of our prescription, when we have to stop ignitions or even go to full suppression. And that's what makes us so much different than fire for suppression purposes. We're not trying to black up line. We are literally burning for an effect, not for suppression.
Right.
And so we have cultural objectives, we've got fuel consumption objectives, and we have, you know, like, we're bringing fire back to paradise. This is an area that suffered from pretty major wildfire trauma, and so that's what the prescription is. You know?
Yeah. So that's part of the objective today is like let people know that we can put fire on the ground safely out here.
Exactly. That is part of our prescription.
I'm looking right behind you here, and we're gonna burn these seedlings. We're trying to kill these small trees, right?
Yeah. I love trees, but we don't need cedars growing shoulder to shoulder, right?
Right, that's how you get a thicket.
That's going to turn into a fire bomb if we
Well,
let that
like
grow
it
to
is right
maturity.
over there.
Yeah, literally. So, yeah, we want to try and fire kill these. We'll girdle them or whatever we need to do to try and get them to consume. And our prescription is we're trying to get 50% consumption. So it's not a overzealous prescription. It's reasonable for our conditions. And I think we got a good prescription and we got a good team. I think we can pull it off.
Thanks, Lyle.
Thanks, Zeke. Glad you're here, brother.
Yeah. All right, so that's Lyle. Lyle spent his whole career in CAL FIRE as a firefighter, and he's from Cohasset.
Wow. Can we get water from that hose?
Yes. Yes, we can.
All right. Yeah, so Lyle's been a big part of the PBA, coming out teaching people how to run pumps and you know, all the technical aspects of firefighting. You know, we're trying to take what we can from wildland culture, and also kind of trying to invent our own culture around doing this without the red trucks, right? Doing this community scale, getting to a point where people don't need they don't need a whole team of people out here to make it happen, right? Like, we'd like to get to a point where this is happening at the neighborhood scale, right?
But I did start with like, all right, I'm on prescribed fire with this. We're testing out the hose. We're testing out the water. System we need water. We're gonna do a test fire. And all right, we're getting ignitions going. This is how it's happening. You know, I kind of like have been following us through the whole thing.
Maybe
And then, so now we're kind of like, everything's kind of winding down. Maybe how the fire went so far, how it's going. I like it burn up like fuels, you know, that kind of thing. So like, you got that?
So we got Joseph O'Neill over here. Joseph's does a lot of fire reporting on Instagram. He's out here today, the real Joseph Powell. We got Kyle over here taking the weather. You want to borrow my slings? Okay.
Your way in or what?
There you go.
Hold on. Hey,
Yeah, so there's a lot going on right here.
hang on.
David, you pull out when you're not wanting to be in there.
So I want to come over here and look at the edge of this unit because it really shows you what healthy versus sick forests look like from a fire perspective. Right now we're about 100 feet from the edge of the unit, and this is what you see outside the unit, right? This is what the unthinned forest looks like, and it's crazy. Like if we had a fire over here, even under milder conditions, it would kill every tree and it would be unstoppable until it got to the top of the hill, right? So this is what we would call in the forestry industry, what we'd call dog hair, right? So what we got in here, we got all these suppressed fir trees, we've got dead and down oaks. We got little kind of shade tolerant cedar seedlings coming in to make this even thicker on the edge. But from a fire perspective and a forest health perspective, like, this is bad news, right? We got way too many trees per acre. None of them are healthy because of the competition for water, and they're all going to be susceptible to disease and insects because they're so thick and they're kind of stressed, right? Got some nice sugar pine in here. And if you came in here with logging equipment and took out like 75% of the trees, it would look like that, right? So here we are right on the edge of the unit. You see the flagging from where they thinned. And so without some sort of pre-treatment, the thicker areas can be difficult. We could backfire down through here right now and kill some of these smaller trees, but it wouldn't accomplish the overall objective of reducing this to a stocking of trees that's healthy, right? We can use fire to pre-treat stuff that hasn't been thinned, and that's kind of a common misconception, is that we can't. But it's better if we come in here and log out a lot of these smaller trees and then burn it, and then we can burn it hotter, and we can maintain, we can kill a lot of these little baby trees, right? So there's real trade-offs with, when you open up a stand to this level, it's hotter, it's drier, the brush grows better. And if you do that and you don't prescribe burn, within a decade, it's gonna have a really bad fire hazard. And fire oftentimes will run faster in a thin stand than in a thick stand, right? Like this stand behind me, if it burns in a crown fire, it's gonna be bad news. But if it burns on a day where the weather conditions aren't extreme, or the slope, if the fire's moving across the slope instead of up from the bottom, oftentimes we see the fire actually behaves more moderately in the heavy canopy. And so it's a difficult thing to message, right? Because you don't want dog hair for forest health reasons. But if you over thin some stands, you actually kind of increase the number of days that it's in a critical kind of fuel moisture, right? So right over here in this area that's been heavily thinned, this is hotter than Hades in full sun a good portion of the summer, right? Where you come into this thicker stand and it's actually the morning humidity lingers longer in the deep shade here. It takes longer into the season for all the surface fuel to dry out. The snow lingers longer. And so there's these real trade-offs. If you're not going to apply prescribed fire in these stands at this elevation that you thin heavily, you have to have some other means of controlling the vegetation, or you're going to just create hot, dry kind of brush fields, and you'll get a lot of regeneration because you open up the stand and you disturb the soil with your logging. That's what happens. And so even here in this stand that's been thin, there's a ton of little baby cedar coming in that can take shade. We've got partial shade in this kind of shaded fuel break that got. So it's kind of complicated. The fact that fire often burns more moderately in unthinned stands is kind of fodder for environmental. The far left end of the kind of forest activism world is looking for excuses to stop timber sales, and it's kind of part of a dogmatic program of divorcing public land management from timber receipts. So they've got kind of bigger political agenda. So they don't want any commercial timber harvest on public lands because they think it's a bad way to set a budget for a land management agency. And in the past, chasing timber dollars has resulted in unsustainable land management by the timber agencies, the federal land management agencies. So I think it's really tough to split that nuance and to say that, like, true, you can have actually lower, you can have greater proportion of moderate severity burn under moderate conditions in a dog-eared thicket than you can in an opening. It's counterintuitive, but the science does show that stands that are thick and have a close canopy oftentimes have a lower fire severity at the landscape scale when you've got kind of moderate burning conditions. But you got to balance that with the fact that a lot of these trees over here are really prone to disease, and it's not a healthy or sustainable kind of forest structure, right? So in between, we've got thinning plus prescribed fire. I think one of the big problems with pitching that, though, is that the Forest Service has got zero capacity to do much other than react to big wildfires and clean up after them, right? Forest Service is great at planning big, complicated land management projects, and then they go into NEPA for 10 years, and then in that time, you get a park fire or a Dixie fire or a camp fire, and all that good planning goes up in smoke. So what concerns me is that on paper, the Forest Service is really committed to expanding the scope and scale of prescribed fire. And if you look at like the Dixie Fire Restoration Project or the kind of Plumas Protect the Communities projects, they're all saying the right thing. They're all saying, we're going to thin this and then we're going to manage it with prescribed burning. But when it comes down to it, their actual capacity to do that is pretty slight. Hey, David. Where's David at? David Mitchell. Just looking up the hill here. So we got the fire here burning through these little baby trees. Hey, Frankie. Thinking if you guys head fire this, you might kill these little trees better. Where's Mitchell at? Okay.
I just want to square off the unit.
Yeah.
Pretty easy, right?
Yeah. Now,
Got all that catcher's mitt up top.
uh-huh. There's kind of a little shuffle going on here. Hey, you got a minute to talk on YouTube?
Sure. Anything for the lookout?
For the lookout? Hey, Frankie. Tell me your name, brother.
My name is Francisco Ramirez. I go by Frankie. I'm a member of the Mechoopda Indian Tribe at Chico, California.
Right on. So what's your story with wildfire and like your family and your family and a lot of your relatives and everything have been really involved in fire? Well, you've been involved with fire for thousands of years, right? But like modern day, how you guys been engaged?
So that portion of our history has kind of been taken from us. We were separated from traditional fire due to acts of the government, Congress, so on and so forth. But my family hasn't had an involvement in fire until myself and my uncle's generation kind of took the forefront of that. And honestly, it's really ingrained in who we are as a people, and myself as an individual. It's hard to explain that the necessity of fire as like culturally, yeah. As soon as I started my fire career with Firestorm Wildland Fire Suppression Inc. And I never really knew what never knew what I was getting myself into. And then as soon as I got on my first fire, kind of put my toes to the flames and off to the races. But just kind of to give you a definitive, I don't really have those involved like
we need to. You know? There's definitely a need not only amongst the tribal community, but amongst the population as a whole. You know, we have had the benefit of having our local community. We have a large capacity for fire in here, and even with that capacity, we have been heavily affected. The park fire, the campfire, the Graham fire in the Issue Wilderness. So you know, it's there's a need outside of our area, even though we have so many resources. And you know, it all begins in the classrooms. You know, people need to be educated. Is really what it is. Because not only Native Americans have that tie, but I believe we all, as a community, have that tie. You know?
To using fire for good.
Using fire for good. Our not before.
Right, like my ancestors burned fields in Norway, right?
Fields in Norway, campfires and caves. We all come from that, yeah. So we just need to reintroduce ourselves, gain those connections back.
Right. Yeah, I like to say, like, fire's the best teacher, right? Like, give people a chance to spend time with fire, and it teaches them what they need to know, what they lost.
Yeah. Oh, it's a very good teacher at teaching you what you don't need, what you don't know you need at the time. You know.
Right. Yeah. So tell me about your crew out here today. Who you got?
So I got Tombo Knoll, Gus Hopper, Zachary Heiss, and then myself. We're all supported by our administrators back at the office, Olivia Wayman, Patrick Spielman, and then of course the cultural aspect, Kyle McHenry. So they all make sure that we're able to come out here and participate, and you know, kind of regain those connections and then regain that knowledge which was lost. You know.
And so you guys are the firing team today?
Yeah, we're the firing team today. Luckily, you know, but it could be anybody. It could be me. Could be you. Could be those other individuals watching on the opposite side of this camera. So you never know. You know.
So what would you say to people who, both native and newcomer, that want to get involved in like prescribed fire?
I say you kind of you take the lead. Is really what it is. You know, you don't know where you fall in line because you might not like to be on this side of fire, but there's definitely a need on the administrative side. You know, or you know, the biological side, environmental. You know,
Right.
There's always an aspect that needs assistance.
Right.
You know? So I suggest if it's something that is you have a yearning for, you know, accept that yearning and kind of just take the dive in and initiate yourself. Initiation by fire. You know?
Right on.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Reiki. Good to be here, man.
We love you guys.
Thanks.
Look out, man.
Yeah, so if you're just joining us out here, we're on the Nimshew Ridge above Magalia, right on the kind of upper edge of Butte Creek Canyon in Butte County, California. There's a landowner burn going on today. There was a thinning that got done here that really turned what used to be a major thicket out here into a really open kind of oak and pine stand. The oaks are a really important part of these forests, and foresters in general over the past 100 years have preferred trees that you can turn into 2x4s or 4x4s or numbers, and often they've kind of been genocidal on the oak, seeing them as a weed, poisoning them, trying to get rid of them so they can grow lots of little Doug fir and ponderosa pine. And but the oaks are this kind of cornerstone of this ecology here. Like the people who are lighting this burn, Mechoopda people, like their people have been eating acorns as a staple of their entire food system for thousands of years. Turkeys eat acorns, deer eat acorns. They're kind of the base of the food web for a lot of things out here that eat turkeys and deer, everything else. So, in the thinning that's been done here, they've left a lot of the big oaks. So one of our goals today is to keep our burn out of those. A lot of the big old oaks have dead wood in them that is kind of susceptible to getting embers in it. And so that's a lot of what this holding crew's doing right now. Is they're just kind of running around and putting water on these stumps and stuff to keep the fire from being too intense right around the big oaks.
That's a big important thing, and honestly,
What's up, Lindsay?
Hey, Zeke, how's it going?
Good. What's your job today?
I am a holding boss of half of the unit.
All right. North Holding.
Oh, it's kind of like this whole end.
I mean, somebody say, are you holding?
I'm holding. Yes.
How many people you have out here today?
Total or just on my holding team?
How many Besurians?
I think we showed up with like 8 or 10.
I'm gonna get your sticker here.
It's cool though, from varying levels of experience, from incredibly new to David and Nate, you know.
Right, and yourself.
Oh yeah.
So do you think we're getting enough heat here on this backing fire to kill these cedar?
Well, probably better in a sunny spot than shadier spot.
Doesn't take much.
But there's some good like pine duff in there that might work.
Yeah. All right, so Frankie's lighting a little kind of, he brought fire straight down the hill here, and now he's lighting off the road. So basically what we're gonna get here is we can get a little head fire. And
Because maybe to help with some of that.
right, so head fire here is when you light the bottom of the hill and it runs up. So we're gonna get a nice little pulse here of big flames and intense fire. And that's good because we're trying to kill these little trees here. So one of the things that Frankie's doing as the firing boss is he's sculpting the fire, right? He's choosing where to light it and when to light it. So we lit uphill over here first. So we'd have like a nice little, what we call catcher's mitt, or there's nowhere for this fire to run. Everything above it's already burned. And now we can crank it up a little and singe these little cedar and pine trees, kill them so they don't become a new thicket out here. All right, so we're trying to kill some of these little baby cedar here. And see that, you know, fuel moistures are kind of high enough that the fire's not just exploding, right? But we're getting good heat here. You know, want to kill these little cedar trees. Sorry, cedar, but see, they have really thin bark when they're little like this. And when they get bigger, it's harder to kill them. So you kind of have a narrow window. Like this got thinned only 4 or 5 years ago, maybe less. And then stuff regrows, and then if you don't burn it, you know, in that first 10 years or so, then it becomes really difficult to do it. Either you have to burn it hotter than people are comfortable giving you a permit for, or, you know, the trees start to get this thick bark that's really, really resistant to heat. And you need a little bit of wind to burn oftentimes. You know, like you can't burn when it's extreme winds. But oftentimes wind is good either for getting your smoke to do what you want or getting the fire to move a certain direction or burn with a certain intensity. If we just lit this at the top of the hill and let it back down to here, it might not generate the heat that we wanted to kill these little baby trees. So you just got to work with, you know, on the other hand, if you wanted to kind of consume more of the material on the ground, you might burn it from the top down, just so the fire would have more time of kind of creeping along and consuming more. So a lot goes into how it gets lit.